that, there was a major fog over the area that particular night.
Yep.
A friend and I, who were on the same team, were sneaking around to avoid the opposing team when all of a sudden we heard someone running, followed by an absolutely excruciating scream. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Youth Group Chronicles. Joining me for the first time on the show, I have Pastor Cody Spencer.
Thanks for letting me come hang out, Sam.
You know, I say this is your first time on the show, but technically it's not.
I've given some stories.
There have been some stories sent in, and also your name just seems to come up in every episode.
Are you serious?
Yeah, not because of stupid things, but every one of my co-hosts is like, oh yeah, Pastor Cody would have done that.
I don't know if that's a good reputation.
It always pertains to a kid getting hurt.
Dude, I don't understand why that always happens. I always have the best intentions, and it's like someone's injured. It's like they made me retire from dodgeball.
Literally.
It's like 2 weeks in a row, I blew a kid's glasses up, and it's like, sorry. I'm so sorry.
A little too aggressive, apparently, but that's okay.
Aggressive.
Yeah, so this is Pastor Cody. He is the infamous youth pastor we always talk about on the show, but we finally get him here to react to some other stories. I would imagine that some of these are worse than yours, but to kick things off, we have a few email submissions here, Pastor Cody. Eden S. During youth group, our pastor had a 10-gallon tank filled with a bunch of fish with a net hidden along the bottom of the tank. Now, during the lesson, he pulled the net up really fast and dumped the fish on the ground in front of us. We tried to get up to save the fish, but he wouldn't let us. And he set a timer and then preached that our concern should be for souls who are dying because they don't know God, much like the fish that are out of water. Those were the two of the longest minutes of my entire life, and then he allowed us to save them and then continued to tell us that we should try as hard to save people around us as we do to save the goldfish. It was a little harsh, but it was the truth.
Dude, why is it? This has to be a charismatic church.
Many people have emailed in variations of this story.
Charismatic churches are so unhinged about showing like the value of life and salvation. It's so funny. We are too. I mean, like, we've definitely done some wild stuff. Like, I remember, oh my gosh, who is it? He founded the Salvation Army. William Booth, right? He has this vision of people like swimming in open water and screaming for help, and like that's where he like founded the Salvation Army. They didn't just used to like sell cheap clothes. They actually used to preach salvation all over the place. Yeah. And pastor one time, this isn't Youth Group Chronicles, this is Sunday sermon, bro. You would remember this, I bet.
Let me hear it.
We had built like a pier or like a dock off the end of our stage. Imagine like a 10-foot catwalk. And pastor was wearing like fishing gear. And you know how like gyms in like elementary schools and stuff, they have those little scooters that like you sit on and you like scoot? He had people laying on them like fake swimming, screaming for help.
This must have been before my time.
Dude, I didn't feel like it was that long ago. And people were like screaming for help. And he's like throwing these fake life rafts out. And it was terrifying. And the one kid, you know how like when people scream, it's always like really awkward? Yes. The one kid's was like extra awkward scream. It was like his throat is like fluttering. And like it was something. But we do a really good job at
the demonstrations. The
demonstration of salvation and the necessity of it.
There must have been like a blog post that went around whenever this was popular. I don't know when the story was, but I'm thinking maybe 5-10 years ago. Someone must have posted it in a Facebook group or written about it. And then everyone was like, we need to do this analogy. Because like I said, I've gotten multiple stories that all have a different ending.
Like the blender? What the heck, dude?
Samantha N. emailed in and said, here's one of the scariest experiences I had in youth group. We were playing an outdoor capture the flag one night at a retreat center out in the country. And because our group was from the city area, the extreme darkness was a bit jarring for some of us.
This sounds like it was in our youth group. Keep going.
Along with that, there was a major fog over the area that particular night.
Yep.
A friend and I, who were on the same team, were sneaking around to avoid the opposing team when all of a sudden we heard someone running, followed by an absolutely excruciating scream. No one else except us could hear this scream, and we started panicking because 1, we were all alone, and 2, we couldn't see who it was or what it was. After a brief debate with my friend, we ventured into the darkness and discovered one of our youth guys had run straight into a barbed wire fence.
That's bad. That's bad.
It gets worse. The top part of his body was flipped over the fence. So he's upside down at this point, caught on the fence, but his pants and legs are caught on the barbs, causing him to hang upside down. He was definitely hurt and he was definitely bleeding. So we screamed for help and no one heard us. So the 2 of us girls attempted to help untangle his pants from the fence. And after trying to free him unsuccessfully for a few minutes, he said he thought it might be best if they just removed the pants because he was too intertwined and had been upside down for too long. So the 2 of us had to awkwardly help undo his pants, detach his skin from the barbs, and he had to climb out of his pants. So she said, we all felt really weird about it, but we knew we had to get him down. And she said, thank the Lord his boxers were still intact. Leaving his shredded pants on the fence, we slowly walked him back to the main area. One of our youth leaders, who was also a nurse, began addressing the humongous gash on one of his legs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she said, I'm not sure if he needed stitches.
Shots and everything.
Oh, yeah. She said, I don't know if he got stitches, but I'm sure he needed them. It was pretty bad. It was definitely one of our scariest / strangest experiences in youth group. I would not have want to be the youth pastor to explain that one. So she sent in an email. I don't have the picture here, but she's like, hey, just so you know, here's some context. Like, here's a picture of the kid's legs. This kid was like annihilated in his legs. Just cut after cut after cut. And he had to be hanging there. Imagine not being able to get out. That is not horrible.
Funny. It's not funny.
I mean, it's a little funny.
That sounds awful.
It sounds awful, but looking back, it sounds a little funny.
Dude.
Not for that kid, but...
That's not... Honestly, I thought... So, like, we were doing that one night, and so Sam's family used to run a Christian camp, and that's where we met his family, is we ended up going there, and then they ended up, like, attending the church with us, and we had brought kids out, and, dude... They harassed people.
Well, these are like city kids, right?
City kids, yeah. So they don't really know what they're getting into. Actually, Sam's wife, dude, this was amazing, was a leader in one of the cabins. Oh, yes. And the girls took salt. It was salt, right? And they filled her bed with salt. Mm-hmm. And they convinced her that it was mold mites. That's what it was, mold mites.
You have to hear the other side of the story. Obviously, my parents run the camp. Yeah. And I am in my bed at this point.
Yeah, because you were just a teenager at this point.
I was like 17 or 18.
Not really a part of what we were doing at all still.
Right. And I had met my wife at that point. I knew who she was. I thought she was cute. And I hadn't really talked to her, right?
Right.
So my mom, you called me and you're like, hey, bro, like the girls, like, I think they got mold mites in their bed. And I'm like, ugh. It was like 11, 12 o'clock. I'm just late. I'm not dealing with this. So I called my mom and I said,
you run the camp. Mom, it's all you.
Hey, it's a girls' cabin, so you should probably go. Because I did not want to get up.
Yeah, no.
And she goes in because she's like, we don't have mold spores. So she like plays it off and she's like, she's like, I have to do this. But she tastes it and she's like, oh, it's just salt. Because she's like, I can't have like this get out to the public that we have mold spores and all that. Anyway, the funny part about this story is the next morning, I found out it was her cabin. And I was like punching air thinking, come on, why didn't I actually just get up and go?
I could have been the knight in shining armor.
Literally, I sent my mom to go do it instead of me. This was my big opportunity. What a failure.
It was like, that was funny though, because they had her up for like 2 hours, like stressing, like freaking out. And it wasn't like her normal group. And they just took full advantage of her. But we had some crazy, like, dude, I remember the one night, like they were out playing and they thought there was a bear. Like everybody's freaking out about this bear that
and then
it
gets blown out of proportion. It's like a game telephone. One kid hears this and the next kid
and then
down
there's
the line.
A Kodiak trying to kill people. It's like just craziness.
Absolutely wild.
I was helping I went to a camp and it was like a huge youth ministry. They had like 600 kids at camp, dude. Wow. And we were there just kind of like see how they did it, and like it was part of a mentoring program. And they actually had so many kids. They had their Bible college kids with them too, and the Bible college kids were out on what they call purity patrol. So there were like 4 Bible college students walking around all night, like just making sure people
you have
in
to
their
at that
cabins.
point.
600 teenagers, dude. Like something crazy is about to happen. Like
Go knocking down doors.
Like, even if it's not like impure, it's like someone's gonna do something stupid. And dude, they saw a canoe, and it was like the canoe was moving around, and they're like, that's weird. No. Why is that canoe moving in the middle of the night? There's no wind. And they went down, and bro, they were like, hey, what are you doing down there? And they saw this kid jump up, pull up his pants, and sprint. Like, kid took off like a bat out of hell. Like, Purity Patrol won that one.
No, they didn't. They were too late.
Actually, you know what? They were too late. I think they could have saved a pregnancy though. But it was like,
oh my goodness.
Whoa, crazy. So when the mentoring program ended, we bought her a little mini canoe and like filled it with her favorite candies and stuff.
Only she'll remember that story at this. That's funny, dude. It's like, why do you have a canoe? Oh, it's a long story.
Actually, not a good moment in my ministry.
Sways Y said, when I was a youth minister right out of college, I took a group of high schoolers to a conference in Daytona. It also happened to be spring break at the same time.
No.
Bad news.
That's bad.
And the beach hotel was hosting the conference was also packed with college students there to party. The first issue was apparently it was a trend amongst the spring breakers to wear underwear and basically lingerie instead of swimsuits. A couple nights in, my kids wanted to go get sodas, but the vending machine on our floor wasn't working. So we went up a couple floors, and I knew we'd be in trouble when I heard music before we even opened the doors to that floor. As we're walking down the hall, about 20 college kids poured out of a room and continued to dance in their underwear, batting around condoms blown up like balloons, and offering both me and my students drinks from their liquor bottles. My kids thought it was hilarious, and I dreaded the calls that I would get when I got home. Luckily, my pastor was, okay, and he was just like, well, what did you expect when you planned a youth conference over spring break in Daytona, Florida?
Yeah, literally. Why is it that, like,
you knew as soon as you started reading it that it was going to be bad news.
We're so bad at dates. Like, just check what's happening.
Literally. Get a master calendar and just cross-reference that.
Go to the hotel's website. Like, what's going on? Oh my goodness, dude.
Not good at all. This is from John T. He said, my biggest youth ministry fail was when I left a student at McDonald's in downtown Nashville. Now here's the worst part. I didn't notice until we had been at the conference for a couple hours that I lost the kid. It's funny now, but not 15 years ago.
Okay, 15 years ago. There were cell phones 15 years ago.
So here's what probably happened. You know how like there's no cell phones on the trip?
Dude, I think that's like one of the worst rules ever. Unless you're at a camp somewhere.
Yes.
And it's just you guys.
Or you let them have it on the trip, and then maybe you get to the location and you do a collection.
Dude, so many people do that. It's like, how do kids take notes these days on their cell phone? That's bad. We left one girl, but it was like our associate pastor's daughter.
Oh gosh.
And it was Jillian. It was her fault.
I could see how Jillian would do that.
Yeah, her fault.
And her parents would be okay.
Oh yeah, they're like, whatever.
They would laugh it off.
Stupid. It was just like at our local mall, so it wasn't like,
that's funny.
And it was my wife, so I could see how Mindy could lose Jillian. And Jillian could lose Mindy. I totally can see that.
I can totally see that too. Tim M. He says, I have so many ministry mistakes, but the biggest one that I remember was 2 years ago as youth pastor. We played a new game where you had to run at each other without hitting each other to get to the other side and sit in a chair. It's called Traffic Jam.
Oh, yeah. This is an older one.
Sounds kind of fun,
this is an older
to be honest. When someone gets out, they have to go stand in the middle however they would like and be a traffic cone that others have to go around. The way they get out is a leader on the outside of the chairs. Every time they yell go, they pull out one of the chairs. It's like musical chairs, I guess. After it being the biggest night we've ever had, the most kids at youth group, they invited friends on top of friends, and it came down to the last 4 kids, and we told them to be careful where you're running because there's a lot of kids, right?
No such thing.
Yeah, there's no such thing. There was a huge crack sound on one of the rounds, and the kids started screaming and yelling. I ran over. Sure enough, 2 kids had collided heads. They were bleeding and crying. We called both sets of parents who were at date night
Congratulations.
One of the sets of parents said they'd be there right away. The other said, okay, let me finish my meal.
Hey, that's fair, man. That's fair.
The parents arrived. They cried too. I cried. One went to the ER, the other went home. They're both still in youth and having a great time. We definitely use it as an illustration to stay safe during a game. Dude, that's a classic youth group one right there.
Do you remember when that happened to Mindy? I think you were still
Color Wars, right? I saw a picture of, I think it was Mason's, I think Antonio posted it, of Mason, right?
Yes.
With like chalk all over. And I remembered instantly Mindy getting, I mean, you could tell the story because it was...
They were running to the chalk in the middle, right? And
don't you just throw chalk at each other?
Yeah, but we had like big buckets set up.
Oh, I see.
And someone like pushed her from behind as she was bending over to put her hand in the chalk bucket, and her lip like literally split all the way to the bottom of her lip off someone's head. That was crazy. That was bad.
That right there, I remember that night.
That was
and
gross.
I remember thinking to myself, yeah, this is why I'm going to sit out any of these games from now on.
Oh, yeah, no.
That was me. And I don't think I played dodgeball.
But you know what else is like super dangerous is those giant inflatable volleyballs.
Oh, the ones that you get inside?
No, the knocker balls are fun. But like fun. The 6 foot beach balls, dude, the people get wrecked by those.
Oh,
I remember watching.
Where you run at them, right?
Yes,
that's
dude,
fun though.
I remember Dustin, one of our leaders, was like, dude, he's like 150 pounds soaking wet.
Full grown man. Yes.
Yeah, he's just like a skinny frame guy. He's awesome. Like, I remember this 7th grade kid was on the other side of the ball, and they're both on a full sprint, and Dustin lost. This kid, half his size, like absolutely wrecked him, dude. Like feet above his head.
If you lower your shoulder enough and put some weight,
keep driving.
If you beat the person to the ball, game over.
Yeah, well, where you really fail is if once you stop running. If you just hit it and stop, you're going to lose. But if you keep running, the other person's done. Over. I've seen like feet overhead so many times from those giant balls. They're dangerous. But it's
so
funny.
Fun. They are really fun to play too. We just get out of the church van. Oh, we get out of the church van at stoplights and run around the van and then get back in. What's that? Chinese fire drills, right?
Yes.
You know, this wasn't youth group, but I had a friend do that at the Canadian border, and his wallet fell out of his pocket. And they, I mean, a lot of times there's like a pretty long wait between customs, and his wallet fell out, got back in the van, thought it was funny, didn't know his wallet fell out. So they keep driving, and then they have a border patrol guy come knock on the window, and they're like, is there a Chris Hamilton in the car? And they're just like, yeah, why? He's like, here's your wallet.
Dang,
you imagine getting to Canada without your wallet? That would be game over. That would suck.
Good luck coming home, buddy.
Yeah. All right, guys. This was another awesome episode of Youth Group Chronicles. Big shout out to Pastor Cody for coming on here. This was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. The stories they're something.
Yeah. So something.
They are something.
They are something. Before we go, obviously, this is one of my things that I'm passionate about. We promo on the podcast a lot that you are over is Uproar Conference.
Yes.
Give us like the rundown. What are we missing?
Dude, all right. So Uproar Conference, this is year 11 of a 100% free conference. And people we go all in. And we bring some of the most anointed, not only anointed, but people that have actually accomplished something, preachers and speakers. Mm-hmm. We bring in some big hip hop artists. We bring in great music. And our goal is to have teenagers in the presence of Jesus to experience the freedom and love of God so that they can go home and cause an uproar. It's an Acts 2 conference where they experience the power of God and then they bring it home with them. Because people were from all over the world in Jerusalem in Acts 2, and then they went all the way back. They weren't just like, oh yeah, how was the Feast of Pentecost? Like, it was okay.
Yeah.
Par for the course. It was normal. Mm-hmm. They're like, you'd never believe what happened. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It was crazy. So like our goal is for people to encounter Jesus in a real, genuine, Holy Spirit way. Theuproar.org for more information, or on Instagram, it's just The Uproar Conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's been incredible. And I don't think anyone should have to pay to hear the gospel. I hate that. Mm-hmm. I hate that kids have to pay $200, $300, $400 to attend a conference. And obviously there's still some travel cost, and they're going to have to pay for their food. But really, like, for a conference that we put on that would be similar, it'd probably be $75 to $100 a student.
Yeah.
We love that we get to do this for free, and by God's grace, we've raised over, I think this year to be over $600,000 to date.
It's wild.
And look, Sam,
so it can
his
be
wife,
free. Yeah.
The rest of our team, we go hard all year to make it possible, and we have some amazing partners that make it possible. And it's just been so cool to see God do such amazing things.
Miss Muse on TikTok said, do you guys need volunteers? Where can they go? Is that a thing that they can sign up for if we do need volunteers?
Yeah, if they just email us, we can send her the volunteer sheet.
Okay. Theuproar.org has our, the email you can get in touch.
Contact us at the bottom.
Contact us. Yeah.
So get registered. If you're interested at all, get registered ASAP.
Yep.
And it'll secure you a seat in the sanctuary.
Yes, there you go, guys. Theuproar.org. And then we had one last comment here on TikTok Live from Ben. He said, I have a ton of stories. So if you have stories, Ben, email them in. We'd love to hear what you have. ygchronicles@gmail.com. We'd love to have you on the show with those featuring those stories. So definitely send them in. Other than that, man, great episode. Love having you here for the first time.
Thank you so much.
And we'll definitely have you back again, all right?
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, I'll hang out for sure.